So we know that Shavuot celebrates the giving of the Torah. That we know already, and that's very, very important. It's about the 7 weeks that lead up to it. What happened on the original Shavuot, and when did it happen? So we know that the Jewish people were by Har Sinai, by Mount Sinai. And we know that Har Sinai had a fence around it, as it were, and the Jewish people were not allowed to go up, and Moshe Rabbeinu was. And we know that on Har Sinai, they were given the Torah. What form of Torah did the Jewish people receive at Har Sinai? That's the question we need to figure out. So we know they were given the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments. Aseret HaDibrot. I'm going to have to go fast today. You're going to take notes. We're going to move quick because we have a lot to do because we're short of classes. The 10 Commandments. We have 2 luchot. Shnei luchot. 2 tablets. These 2 tablets were given to the Jewish people and etched into them. And this is an important word, cherut. We mentioned this word when we discussed Pesach. Cherut el haluchot. They were engraved slash, I guess, etched into the stone. Into the stone were the words of the Aseret HaDibrot. These 10, the word statements, actually, not 10 commandments. There are actually 13 commandments in the 10 commandments, if you want to know a little bit of trivia, were etched into these 2 stones. Into these 2 stones, okay? What's important is that all the 613 mitzvot can be found in these 10 statements. That's what the rabbis tell us. These are like the roots. These 10 statements, okay, can be found inside these 10 statements can be found all the Tariag mitzvot. So these 10 statements, right, which happen to involve mitzvot, are not separate from the 613 commandments. They are 10 of the 613. Are we clear? So we have 613 mitzvot. Not all of them were given at Har Sinai because many of them weren't even applicable yet and hadn't been fully. However, the core roots of all of them, so not all the details of all of them, were given to the Jewish people over the 40 years in the desert. Moshe Rabbeinu received all 613, and what the Jewish people received were 10 of these, as we said already, 10 statements that had inside them 13 mitzvot, and all 613 come from these 10. That's the way it works out.
So there were 13?
You'll see in the 10 statements are 13 commandments, 13 actual mitzvot. When I say commandments, I mean actual mitzvot. Are you following so far, Kinderlich? Are we good? Okay. So what we need to do then is to figure out, since this was given on Shavuot, we need to work out what exactly was on these 2 tablets. What are these 10 statements? What are these 13 mitzvot? And that is what we're going to do today. Maya.
Did Hashem etch them or did Moshe?
Very, very good. The first luchot HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Biyad Hashem did. The second luchot, because these ones are going to be broken after the sin of the golden calf. And the second set, which actually had a little bit of different wording, and we'll see a little bit today if we get there, we'll put it in the second set. And the second set, which were brought down, were actually made by Moshe Rabbeinu himself. So they were slightly lower standard than the first ones. Yeah.
What does that bottom part say?
Cherut is engraved. Now, we mentioned this word before, because on Pesach we went cherut, and this is charut. Charut is engraved. Charut is engraved, and cherut means free. So on Pesach we went free with cherut, Zman Cheruteinu, and on Shavuot we got the Torah, which are charut al haluchot. Yeah? Michal, you got it? So it's cherut / charut. That is a very famous statement of the rabbis. Yeah, Maya, we haven't said anything yet. What are your questions?
Last class we went through what was in the Aron HaKodesh.
Yes.
Mishkan.
Yeah.
So which set of luchot then?
Very, very good. There were actually 2.
They kept the broken ones?
They kept the broken ones, yeah. And they were kept in one. And the main one were the full ones. So that means in the Aron Kodesh, in the Holy of Holies, was the Aron. That was the golden box, within which was a wooden box, within which was a golden box, within which were the first ever luchot and the first ever Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Different opinions when that was written. The Gemara says it was either written totally in one go, as a nevuah, as a prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, or Megillah, piece by piece, until Moshe Rabbeinu's death, and written over the 40 years we were in the Midbar, from Har Sinai into the entry into Israel. Both of those are two possible options. Yeah?
So you said that the 10 statements on the Lufot have 13 mitzvot?
Yes, we're going to see that, yeah.
Is that where all the 613
So
mitzvot
within these 10 statements / 13 mitzvot, every other mitzvah somehow relates and finds its source inside these 10. It's hard to see sometimes, right? For example, we'll see that every Jewish holiday somehow stems from Shabbat. So you don't see it explicitly, but it's implied inside the mitzvot of Shabbat.
Do they have a book, or has any rabbi ever?
Yes, there is a number of versions. We know there are 613 mitzvot. There are different versions what actually makes up all 613. So the Chofetz Chaim, his version, the Sefer Chinuch has his, the Rambam has his, different opinions, actually what constitutes all 613 of these mitzvot. But everyone agrees it's 613. Okay, 248 positive, 365 negative. For example, don't take revenge or bear a grudge, right? Loti Torah velotikom. Is that 2 or is that 1? Chofetz Chaim says they're 2 separate mitzvot. Some actually combine them, make them into 1. Revenge and bearing a grudge, for example. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through all 613, but those people who've done my Introduction to Judaism class know we do it in a very unusual fashion. We don't do it 1 through 5. We do it differently, right? Okay, let's recap. So we have 2 luchot, right? Let's say this is luch number 1 with 5 statements, luch number 2. Actually, this was the original design. The original design was not that design you see in synagogues, right? This design, right? That is not the original design. I know this is symbolic. This actually was, I don't know if even a Jew made it, but it's based upon a verse in the Tanakh that says you should put your heart, is the heart shape, on the Torah. Actually, that's what it's meant to be. It's like a heart shape on top of the Torah, on top of your mitzvah. You're going to put your heart on the mitzvah. That's not the original design. Was actually 2 cubes, right? By an amma, by an amma, by an amma. And the writing was charut ala luchot. It was cut in to the luchot.
But couldn't you also read back, like through the thing back?
Another miracle was that it could be read from both sides, and it worked. There were about a number of miracles actually that were associated with it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually go through what these are. You're going to learn them. You're going to memorize them because
Wait, what's the shape?
2 cubes.
Oh,
2 cubes is what it was like, right? 2 cube blocks, okay? Nope, solid stone with the letters etched in. By the way, that means there was a miracle within the miracle. What was the miracle? First, the Moshe was able to carry them, that's for sure, but also some letters, as they appear actually as circles, like a samach or a mem sofit. So those letters actually were hovering inside as well.
Why?
They were hovering letters because they are etched out completely. A samach and a final mem actually is also like a square. So they were hollowed out, if you think about it. And those are floating letters inside the luchot. Why those were floating is a very interesting discussion. Okay, so we're going to go through all 10 and we're going to memorize precisely what those 10 are. I'll tell you a quick story. I was at university after going to yeshiva in Israel for a year, and I was on a bus. And I was at the back of the bus on the way to college. And I, at that point, had removed my yarmulke. I was not wearing a yarmulke. I did my whole life. I went to a very religious yeshiva, but for various reasons, I took my yarmulke off. And I was on this bus riding up to my university. I soon changed it. I put my yarmulke back on. And this may have been the reason why. And a vicar, that is a Anglican priest, got on with a dog collar, gets on the bus. And the bus is empty, maybe 1 or 2 people, and me at the back seat. And he gets on. You know that feeling when you're on a bus and someone gets on, you're not going to sit next to you? You're like, they're coming for me. They're coming for me. I ain't getting away from this one. So I was like, oh no, don't sit next to me, don't sit next to me. The more I said it, he sits down next to me and he looks at me and he says, are you Jewish? I was like, you know what? You can take the yarmulke off, but you can't get rid of the nose. They always know, right? So I'm sitting with this guy and I said, yes, I am. He says, I have some questions for you. And I'm like, oh my God, Ribbana Shalom. I'm saying, oh my God, here we go. So he starts asking me questions about Mashiach, which at that point I had no clue about, because he was all about Jesus and the second coming, and I didn't know what to say to him, which started one obsession trying to figure out the Jewish view of Mashiach and why we don't accept Jesus as the Messiah. He wasn't trying to missionize me. He wasn't a missionizing priest. It wasn't part of, his thing. He had questions for me. He had very honest, earnest questions. I just didn't know the answers. And, I was very good at, making up answers, but I had nothing to say to him. And then he said to me, I want to ask you about the order of the Ten Commandments. How come your order is a certain way and they have a different order for the Ten Commandments? And I realized at that point, although I'd been to Haredi yeshivot my entire life and I'd learned Torah and Gemara, I didn't know the Ten Commandments. It was embarrassing, to say the least. And I didn't know what to say to him. However, now I know very clearly that the order that we have of the Ten Commandments comes directly from the Torah, right? In Exodus chapter 20, Shemot, Perek Chaf, we see the exact order, and that's the order that whenever we print, right, diagrams or lessons or speak about this, we follow that, and the order is actually really important. It's not some abstract order. The design is important, and the order is important, and number 1 is important, and number 5 reflects to number 1, and to 4, 3, 2, 1, and number 10 relates to those, and there's a lot going on over here. There's a confluence of ideas that we need to look into. The first most important one is why there are 2 tablets. Why do we even need 2 tablets? Why couldn't we have one big tablet with a list of 1 through 10? And the answer people usually give me is because it was too heavy for Moshe Rabbeinu to carry. That's ridiculous, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides how much things weigh, and it was a miracle he could carry them in the first place, so we could have actually put it into one big block. So that's not a sufficient or accurate answer. The answer actually is because there is a difference between Luach 1 and Luach 2. When I say Luach, I mean tablet. Tablet number 1 are mitzvot bein Adam la Makom. The name of God, there's many names of God. This one is Makom because Makom means place. And the Ramban says, you need to write this down, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in every place, yet is not contained and confined inside it. So you can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this Makom, and yet he's the ultimate place, and everything is inside him. That's how the Ramban understands that statement. The second Luach is Bein Adam le Chaveiro. Chaver, between us and each other. So this is important. When you put 2 things side by side, when you put 2 ideas or 2 objects side by side, what exactly are you doing? What are you saying? These 2 things are separate but equal. They are comparable and they are connected. That's why they are side by side. If I pull 2 people up here, right, and put them next to each other, I'm contrasting, but I'm also comparing them. And the fact they are exactly the same size and shape, which they were, these 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments, means that we're connected, which means, first of all, if we do anything, before we even know what these 10 are, we know that the mitzvah between us and Hashem and the mitzvah between us and each other are separate but equal. They connect to each other. That is lesson number 1 of the Luchot, which is the lesson number 1 of the entire Torah, because this is the first time the Torah was given to the Jewish people as a nation. That we have 2 realms in Jewish life, our relationship to Hashem, Bein Adam Lamakom, and our relationship to each other, which is Bein Adam L'Chavero, and they're equal. It's not sufficient just to do mitzvah between us and Hashem, keep kosher and Shabbat. That's not sufficient in and of itself. It's also not sufficient, let's be honest, just be nice to people and ignore our relationship to Hashem. Like people will say to me, Rabbi, I don't keep Shabbat kosher, but I'm nice to people. I mean, that's all very, very good, but you're missing 1 through 5. And a person can't keep Shabbat and kosher and treat other people like animals in business or in their relationships. You're missing 6 through 10. That's lesson number 1 that came to the Jewish people. Before Moshe Rabbeinu even said a word, they saw this and they realized these 2 realms of Jewish life. Yeah.
Did Moshe rewrite the second set of Luchot?
Hashem told him what to put in, but he himself had to etch it in somehow. It came from, the first was Yad Hashem, and the second Luchot were Yad Adam.
But is there any
Difference? Yes. Not spelling. There are different words that are added to each word, not many. We're going to look at a couple of them, which actually add something to the understanding of the mitzvot when we see the difference. Yeah, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to show you some of them. I'll show you the important ones anyway. Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat what you were saying about Rambam says Hashem's in every place?
One of the names of Hashem is Makom, because Hashem is in every place. He's the ultimate Makom, ultimate space. That's why his name is Makom. But he's not contained within it. He's not limited to space. He's the ultimate space. We find ourselves inside him. The Torah is inside him. The world is inside him.
How do we know that the first set of luchot is different, like the words are different?
It's there. If you look in Parsha Yitro, right, Exodus, right, chapter 20, it'll tell you exactly what the wording is, and then you go to, I know that my Bar Mitzvah Parsha, and then you jump to Parsha Ve'et Hanan in Sefer Devarim. So Moshe Rabbeinu reiterated many of the mitzvot that were important for the Jewish people who are about to go into Israel, and that second set are actually listed out exactly with wording, but there are some wording, not many, there's a number of wording changes in the repetition of the contents of the second set of luchot. And you'll see that written out in Parshat Ve'et Hanan. I want to just move forward because maybe your questions will come up. I need to go through all 10 so we know them, understand them, so that if a priest appears to you on a bus or anywhere else and they say, so tell me why exactly you people have your 10 commandments, however they speak in this country, right? You'll be able to give them a good and accurate answer. So we're going to memorize and learn 10 commandments. There is a very famous Rashi on Shir HaShirim, chapter 4, verse 5, or chapter 5, verse 4. I don't remember, I've forgotten. But this Rashi is very famous, and Rashi says not only are the luchot put next to each other to compare and contrast the first luach and the second luach. This is a Rashi on Shir HaShirim. It's not such a famous one, but it's a fascinating one. We are also comparing each commandment, which means that 1 is connected to 2, 3, 4, and 5. 6 is connected to 7, 8, 9, and 10. We just said, Benam lamakom, benam lachaveiro, but there is also a horizontal relationship because each one of them, if you think about it, are put next to each other so they compare 1 to 6, 2 to 7, 3 to 8, 4 to 9, and 5 to 10. So in your little books, you're going to draw a downward arrow as so, because they compare to each other, actually both ways we're going to see, but there is also a horizontal connection like that. That's how they compare themselves one to the other. So what we're going to do right now is go through all 10, but we're not going to go downwards, we're going to go sideways. Do you understand what we're about to do? Okay, let's do it together. The first of the 10 commandments is probably the most important, and by the way, I should mention, the first 2 of the Dibrot are actually in the first person, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them directly to the Jewish people. Commandment number 1, commandment number 2. Commandment number 1 and 2 actually encapsulate all the other 8, and therefore all 613 mitzvot. And commandment number 1 is going to be a positive mitzvah. Commandment number 2 is going to be a negative mitzvah. So all the positive mitzvot, of which we have how many? 2, 4, 8. You need to know this number. 2, 4, 8. Positive mitzvot, mitzvot aseh, things you are meant to do, are found within that first commandment. And the second commandment encapsulates all the lo taseh mitzvot, of which there are 365. 365 negative commandments, i.e. lo taseh. Sometimes you'll have one mitzvah, for example, like Shabbat, that encapsulates aseh and lo taseh. That's fine. We're okay with that. But we must reach a tally of 613, and within that tally you must have 248 positive, 365 negative. That adds up to 613. So now the first commandment, which we're going to see is the mitzvah to believe in Hashem, says the Ramban, was given directly to the Jewish people. The second commandment, which is not to have any idols, was also given directly to the Jewish people. After that, the Jewish people couldn't handle it, the Gemara says, and the rest are not in the first person, they were given via Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? That's why they're in the second or third person. But the first 2 were given directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Jewish people. We all became prophets at that moment. That's why the Gemara says that we may not be prophets, but we're children of prophets. Let's have a look at the first word of the first luach, because that's going to be the opening statement. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's business card. If God had a business card, this is what it would look like. You understand? Write this down. The first word is Anochi. There's a very famous discussion in the Gemara. The letter Aleph got very upset because the Torah begins with the letter Bet. And the Aleph said, what's up with that? I'm the first letter. I should begin the Torah. But the Bet is needed to begin because Hashem created the world with Bet being Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. Also, the letter Bet, if you think about it, is like a parenthesis, right? Everything comes out of it. There's that actually a dot. It's Bereshit, not Vereshit. And therefore, we don't know what happened before, right? This reality of what happened before, we do not know. We know from this point onwards, we have no idea what happened before creation. We just know from Maaseh Bereshit onwards. So as if you will, the Gemara says, we don't know what happened before, we have no idea. Time and reality and space began at that moment. From that moment onwards, we have a creation, a Bria called Zman, time, which we spoke about in relation to Pesach. So Hashem said, I'm sorry, I need the Bet because it's the number 2, and I created Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba, and I've got to block off what happened beforehand. But don't worry, Aleph, you're going to begin the Aseret Dibrot. You're going to be able to start the 10 Commandments. This word Anochi means I. There's another way to say I in Hebrew. How else do you say I in Hebrew? Ani. What's the difference between Ani and Anochi? There must be a difference because they're 2 Hebrew words. By the way, everything today must be written down, my dear friends. It's going to be in your final. The difference between Anochi and Ani. Ani means I, but if I, it can be you as well. I'll do it, but if I don't do it, somebody else will. Anochi, a better translation is, it is I, and only I. Anochi. That's why we don't say Anochi, it is I. Actually, this is an acronym, says the Gemara. Aleph, Nun, Chaf, Yud. Ana, I. Nafshi, my soul. This is Hashem speaking. Chaf is Ketavti. Yud is Yahavti. I don't write, it's actually in Aramaic, but you just have to know what it refers to. I, my soul, was written and given. Anochi nafshi ketavti yahavti. I, my soul, this is Hashem speaking. Hashem is saying that if you want to understand me, says Hashem, it was written and given. Where was it written? In the Torah. The Ramban says the Torah actually is one word. The entire Torah is one word because it's a name of Hashem. So Hashem is saying, if you want to understand me, look in the Torah. Look at it, because you'll understand. How do you understand God? What is the Jewish way? Actually, it should be everyone's way to understand God by looking in the Torah. The Torah reveals God's essence, His soul, as it were, that can only be found. You can experience Hashem with a beautiful rainbow, or I don't know, a nice view, a sunset, whatever it is. But to know God, you need to study Torah. Hashem put His soul, Ana, I, Nafshi, my soul, Katavi was written and given to us. Hashem is telling the Jewish people, if you want to know what I'm all about, learn the Torah. It's not just some little academic book that was given to sit on your shelf like an encyclopedia, right? It's not that. It is the way we understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we understand the past, we understand the present, and you can even understand the future, right? Because it's all nevuah to Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's the opening statement, actually the opening word of the Aseret HaDibrot. It then says, Anochi Hashem asher hotzeticha meretz Mitzrayim, took you out of Egypt. Why is that the follow-up? Why is that such an important statement? So the Ramban says, because we met Hashem when we left Mitzrayim, and this is the idea of a personal God. When you mention Mitzrayim, you're saying, yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, you have to know those two parts go together. Anochi goes together with us being taken out of Mitzrayim. That connection you have to do. The Yud and what? Yahavti, given. Yahav is to give. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I'm the Lord your God, Asher Hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim, who took you out of Egypt. Okay? So Hashem his opening statement is, this is who I am, this is the Torah, this is what I do, and I took you out of Egypt. Why is that the opening statement? Why can't it be who created the world, the universe, and everything? So the Ramban says, and write this down, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was saying, I am a personal God. You need to relate to me. I'm not just the creator of the universe and everything. We know that from the beginning of the Torah. and from history that you need to know that I'm involved in. How do you tell someone that you are personally involved with them? By rescuing them from servitude, by taking them out of Mitzrayim. This was a new concept. When Moshe Rabbeinu went to see Paro, the Midrash tells us, he said, I'm here to represent the good God, Yud, with the Hey and a Vav and the Hey. And Paro took out a book with thousands of gods in it and says, I don't see him listed here. Why did he just write down, okay, we have another God. We had 10,000, we have 10,001. The answer is because Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Paro something which did not exist in their psyche yet. This is the God of love who is personally involved, not a God that needs to be appeased via idol worship and child sacrifice, which people are still doing today, unfortunately. Still killing their children for God and suicide bombing. That is not what Hashem wants. Hashem doesn't want you to die for him. Hashem wants you to live for him. And he was telling Paro, this is the God of love. How do you show love to someone else? By helping them, by rescuing them. And that's exactly what happened. That's why Mitzrayim, so the Ramban is mentioned over here, that God, Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Paro and the Jewish people, this is a personal relationship. Okay? That's commandment number 1. And that's all mitzvah aseh, and that is the mitzvah to believe in Hashem. There is a mitzvah to believe in God, and it comes from the first of the Aseret HaDibrot. So if someone says to you, is there a mitzvah to have emunah, to believe in God? The answer is yes. Absolutely. And this is the mitzvah to do that. Yeah.
Does after all this happened, like did Paro believe that Hashem?
So he very, very good question. Initially he did not, and then Hashem hardened his heart, and then he got to create Yam Suf, and at that point he did. At that point he did.
He still worshiped his.
Yep, he actually became a monotheist after that experience, as did many Mitzrayim. And many Mitzrayim left as Eruv Rab with a mixed multitude after when the Jewish people left Egypt.
Why?
Because they experienced the Makot and they joined the Jewish people.
The people who joined, were they
Now
converts?
we have.
They're not really converts because they joined the Jewish people before we were even Jewish.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? We were all converts to Har Sinai.
I thought that was the Arab.
We were all, but no, every Hebrew that left Egypt became Jewish to Har Sinai. It was actually one big, massive conversion, which is why we read the book of Ruth on Shavuot, because she's a convert, but we're all converts. In a sense, we all became Jewish. What does Jewish mean? Chayav in Torah mitzvah. Right? It's not just buying bagels. It means we became obligated in mitzvot at Har Sinai. So we all became Jewish. We took up, and that means the Jewish people, the Hebrews, I should say, who didn't leave Egypt, because we said 80% did not leave, never became Jewish. They were descendants of Avraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, but they never became Jewish because they didn't reach Har Sinai. Har Sinai was the changing point. Shavuot represents the changing point from not Jewish to Jewish, which means chayiv, not chayiv in mitzvot, to chayiv in mitzvot. That's actually what it was. It was a mass Jewish conversion. Okay, let's jump to the other side. So we have Anochi Hashem Elokecha on side number 1. Now we jump to side number 2, and we have to look at number 6. So what exactly is commandment number 6? Nope.
Don't steal.
Nope.
Don't kill.
Yes. Right? Do not kill. Right? That is going to be the mitzvah. What does that mean, kill? When we say kill, what exactly are we saying? La tirtzach. Do not kill. Do not kill. So, in essence, it means you cannot go and murder someone. However, the details over here, you're allowed to kill in self-defense. So it can't be kill, it's really murder. If someone's trying to kill you, you're allowed to kill them first, right? It may not be a pleasant mitzvah, but you're allowed to do that. So over here, we're saying do not murder. That actually is number 6. Now that mitzvah existed beforehand, because we know there were 7 mitzvot that were given to the world at large via Adam Rishon, who got 6 of them, and then Noach got the 7th, the 7 Noahide laws. Okay? Those mitzvot existed beforehand. One of those was do not kill. Why do we need to repeat that mitzvah? Well, to tell us that it's not just the world, everyone needs to do it, but also the Jewish people. It's got to be more than that. Murder in Judaism isn't just killing people, it's also embarrassing someone, stealing their livelihood, right? Hurting them, stealing their wife or their husband. That also kills a person. So actually, the idea of lo tirtzach, although a person isn't killed for doing those things, having said so, maybe in Shemayim, there's a certain equivalence between murdering someone physically and murdering them psychologically or spiritually. That is the extra layer that was added on for the Jewish people. Lo tirtzach retzicha. Now we're going to do the following. Listen very carefully, my friends. Write this down. We are also going to find a connective word between them. If they're put next to each other, there must be a connection that goes with it as well. Do you understand what I'm saying? Once again, we said there are 10 commandments, or 10 statements, okay? Aseret dibrot. We said number 1 is connected to number 1:7, because they're put next to each other, but there must be some connection between them. So if number 1 is do believe in Hashem, and number 6 do not kill, what's the connection? Why are those two put next to each other specifically? I know you're in my class, good girl. That seems doesn't know. Yeah?
Because why would you kill someone, like, if you believe in Hashem, if Hashem would just take care of anything that...
Very, very good. Okay, very good answer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us life, and Hashem decides when life is taken away. So we can't kill. And where does that come from? From our belief in Hashem. So our belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu is actually the beginning of all moral and ethical decisions. And the biggest moral and ethical decision is, do you kill someone or do you not kill someone? So the key word over here I like to say is acknowledgement. Acknowledgement. You acknowledge there's a God. Look at me. Look at me. That's commandment number 1. And the other side is we acknowledge each other. That's going sideways. How do you acknowledge somebody else? By not killing them. Right? The biggest diss you can give someone is by killing them. So that's the connection. So we're going to end up, by the way, with 10 statements, 13 mitzvot, and 5 connections. Are you following the pattern we're following today? You can use it the rest of your lives. You'll thank me one day. Okay, so that's the idea of murder. By the way, who says you can't kill? Let's just go with that. I mean, if we are, which we're not, just evolutionary extensions of animals, okay, which maybe we are physically, but we're definitely not spiritually on a soul level, then if animals can kill each other, if a lion is allowed to kill, I don't know, a deer or whatever, right, then why can't I just kill another person? You understand what I'm saying? This I do not kill. Why animals kill each other for food? Why can't I kill each other for food? Right? And the answer is because, commandment number 1, there's a HaKadosh Baruch Hu who gave us and said, no, you don't do that. Animals do it. Right? The lions don't go attacking other animals and then they get arrested and put in prison for murder. And yet, we do. We know there's an ethical, moral problem with killing each other, right? Just because I'm a little bit hungry and Mrs. Goldberg has money, so I'm going to beat her on the head with a brick and take her money from her so I can buy lunch. We know that's not acceptable, but why not? Animals do it, why can't I? We're basically saying there's a difference between humans and animals, which is the level of the neshama, the soul. Okay? Great. Commandment number 2. Do not worship idols. This particular mitzvah actually is the one that divides up into 4 separate mitzvot. So here's a good trivia question you ask your families. How many commandments are there in the 10 commandments? 13, because there's 9 and 4, which is this one. That's actually listed in the Torah. You cannot worship idols. You cannot worship the way they're normally worshipped. You can't worship the way they're not normally worshipped. You can't bow down to them. There's various aspects written in the Torah about this particular mitzvah, and it's considered the worst of all the negative commandments. It's going to be the opposite of number 1. Number 1 is belief in God. The opposite of belief in God is believing in idols. They both involve believing. One is the greatest mitzvah, and one is considered to be the worst aveira, which is avodah zara, and that is commandment number 2. So what is so bad about avodah zara? That's just, it just lists 4 aspects of this particular mitzvah. Obviously, it's bad enough that the Torah has to go out of its way to list these explicitly and not leave it to the oral Torah to explicate what the
Is that like
details
bowing
are.
and stuff like that? Those
Yep.
are 4. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, in order to figure out why this is so bad, we need to jump to the other side. What's on the other side of avodah zara, not worshipping other gods? That means commandment number 7 is
Don't steal.
no adultery. Lo tinaf. It's a very unusual word. I wanted to write it down. Okay? Lo tinaf. Tinaf is a very strange word. I don't know if it appears anywhere else in the entire Torah. I mean, maybe it does in Tanakh somewhere, but it refers to adultery, but that's not what it means. It's actually made up of two words, ten af. What's ten? Give. What's af? A nose. A nose in the Torah always represents anger. Af Hashem, the anger of God. Right? Well, that's because, when a person gets angry, I guess they're breathing out of their nose, like those cartoons, like, you're not getting angry. Right? Your breathing gets tough. So God, when a person commits adultery, meaning starts to break down the family unit, that's one time that we know for sure, through stories in the Torah and explanations in the Gemara, that Hashem gets angry. Hashem does not like this. Hashem does not want people breaking down the family unit through adultery. This makes Hashem angry. And whenever you see punishment coming upon the Jewish people or the nations of the world, it involves sexual immorality. Sexual immorality. That's where you see it. Whenever you see it, and actually that's one of the few occasions when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wipes out those who deserve to be wiped out, and Lo Aleinu even starts to hurt those who technically don't deserve to be hurt or wiped out either. That's tinaf, lo tinaf. We have to run through, so we need to find the connection between them. Connection between what? No idol worship and no adultery. What's the connective tissue between them?
They're one end to the other.
They are sideways. We're connecting them sideways.
Represents all the negative.
It does represent the 365 negatives, yeah? So?
These are both don'ts.
They're the two
There's
worst.
other dotes too. Ah?
They're the two worst.
They are pretty bad, that's for sure. But why? We're trying to figure out why. Why are they so bad? What is it in the essence of these two? So, the rabbis tell us the following. It goes like this. Check this out. Both of them actually come from a good desire. I want to worship. It just gets pushed the wrong side and I worship the wrong thing. So the intentions are good. The end result is bad. I want to have a relationship. I want to connect to another person, but that person's already married. But the initial desire is good. So both of them represent a concept of I'm starting off good with good understandable desires, but not channeling them well. And they both end up in destruction. Avodah Zarah ends in destruction of the people, and adultery ends up in the destruction of the family unit. And Hashem does not like that. That is number one. Number two is, why is adultery even bad? Because marriage is a sacred commitment that people make under the chuppah. Under the chuppah, and remember the Jewish people had a mountain over their heads, as we're going to see, at Har Sinai. We married Hashem in an exclusive relationship. So too under the chuppah, you have an exclusive relationship. And you're breaking that eternal bond that you made at Har Sinai with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, under the chuppah with your spouse, and you are committing adultery both ways by going for idols, although it's understandable, and going for someone who you're not meant to be with, and that is a connection, exclusivity. We have one God, and we have one family that we are meant to focus on. That is the connection. So we have acknowledgement was connection number one. You should have your notebooks. Connection number two is exclusivity. Okay, we have 20 minutes. We have to finish off another 6 commandments, 3 connections. Commandment number 3 is, and you can find all of this in the book of Shemot, Chaf, and it is read on Shavuot, which makes sense, but also in Parshat Yitro, right? Because that describes the giving of the Torah, which is what happened on Shavuot. Okay, so what is commandment number 3? Don't take the Lord's name in vain. Lo tisa et Hashem Elokecha l'shav. What exactly does that even mean? And how did that make the top 10? How did that make the top 10? Okay, So the idea of not taking Hashem's name in vain actually is occurring in a very specific place. This is not for everyone everywhere. Some mitzvot are for everyone everywhere, like mezuzah, right, or Shabbat. Some mitzvot are specifically for certain people in certain circumstances. For example, all the mitzvot of the Beit HaMikdash are mostly for Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash. I mean, we learn about them because we can learn from them. But what exactly is that mitzvah all about? So over here, you are in, anybody know? Where are you? You're actually in a physical location when this occurs. You are in a Bet Din, and there is a trial happening, and you're about to be sworn in. Every witness has to swear in before they are judged. And this is a big deal because you are using Hashem's name. Just like they do in American courts of law, you put your hand on the Bible, and I swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. A Jewish person does not do that because it comes with a lot of responsibility. If you're going to swear on Hashem's name, you better be telling the truth. And the rabbis used to say, you're about to use God's name to swear on this event happening. Not happening. You better know before you swear in exactly what you are doing. This is a big deal, and they would frighten them, terrify them by doing this. That's why actually in American court of law, we don't swear, we affirm. We affirm, which is why when you saw Ambassador Friedman being sworn in by Pence, right, as the ambassador, if you look, he was a religious Jew. He had a chumash, and he said, I affirm this position. He didn't swear. Swearing, making a shavua is a big deal. This commandment is there. You're in a court of law, you're about to sworn in, put your hand in the butt, and you're about to swear in, and it says, I promise to tell the truth. And it says over here, don't mess around with that. Don't swear l'shav for no reason either. Right? Don't just swear this table is a table. Why are you swearing? Why are you using God's name for that? Why are you swearing? And all this needs to be understood. Just using Hashem's name for ulterior motives or for no motives is a terrible avera and potentially chayav mitah for doing that. It's a big deal. So we don't do it. We don't swear. No. We say bli neder. We say, I don't swear on anything. I affirm. We do not do it. It's a big deal. Even saying I promise to do something in the future is potentially a big deal. It has to be in the lashon of a shavua to be the real deal and God's name. Why is it considered so bad? So to do that, let's jump to the other side, which is commandment number 8. What is commandment number 8 in the 10 commandments? You need to know these 10, and you're already seeing why the order is so important. Not just like random. You know, it's not Dave Letterman's top 10 list and just like mix them up any way you want. They're all very important. So over here it is law. Very good. Do not steal. Now this stealing is not stealing things. It can't be, because this stealing is the worst stealing, and a person is killed for doing it. And you're not killed for stealing things. You have to return those things. You have to do teshuvah. You have to pay a penalty, right? Depends what you stole. Certain items have bigger penalties than others, right? Between a cow and a sheep, the Torah tells us, it's a 4 or 5 times the amount, 4th or a 5th rather, but not to be killed or hurt in any way. Yet this particular stealing is the worst thing that a person is killed for. What is the worst thing a person can steal? People, including children, yeah, people. Kidnapping is considered the worst form of stealing because you're stealing a person's freedom. And people are judged very greatly, as we know, because we have brothers and sisters who were kidnapped in Eretz Yisrael, and they are going to be greatly punished for doing that, because this is part of giving freedom to other people, and they will be greatly punished for kidnapping.
Clearly doesn't say it in the Quran, that's what I'm saying. Like, these are such holy.
Or they see other people as lower entities. This is antithetical to Jewish belief. If you kidnap a person against their will and make them work for you and do bad things to them, that is the worst thing. You are chayav mitah. That's right. Bringing them back, pidyon shavuim, bringing people back. You are kidnapped, you can be machal Shabbat to do it. All right, freeing a person, considered one of the greatest mitzvot in the Torah. Being put even we have to even buy and trade in order to get their bodies back. What's the connection? This is very interesting. between not swearing falsely on God's name in a court of law, in a beit din, and not kidnapping people. Because that's really what this mitzvah is. You cannot kidnap. By the way, as a side point, kidnapping isn't just kidnapping like we see Hamas doing to Jewish men, women, and children and babies, Yamach Shimam. It's also slavery. Right? Slavery. Did you know right now in the world, I just heard it in Shir this morning, actually, weirdly enough, there are 27 million slaves in the world today. That's the estimates. 27 million people are being held. Those nations that do this or allow this to happen are judged by God very harshly, and they will disappear. They will disappear. 27 million slaves. And slavery, think about it, it's kidnapping. Taking someone against their will and making them do avodah, right? Against their will. Not being treated well. Mamash, slavery is mamash kidnapping. How do we connect those two? What's the connection?
We don't steal Hashem's name, just like we don't steal it.
Very, very good. Right? We have respect for Hashem by not stealing his name in a court of law for nefarious purposes, and we don't steal each other in order to get benefit from those other people as well. Respect. Respect God's name. Don't use it in a court, because when you swear in a court of law, what are you saying? That me and God we're in this together. I'm going to use his name. Right? All you have of God in this world is his name. Right? You can't see God, touch God, but you have his name. His name is Kadosh, it's holy. So when you start to use his name for I'm telling you the truth. I live and invoke God's name in order to prove it. You've now abused that relationship. That's really, really bad. You've cheapened God's name. About even stealing a person's name, taking their identity, or saying they did something when they didn't do something, that is also very abusive. So that's respect. Respecting people's right to freedom and respecting God's name by not misusing it. That's 3 and 8. So let's recap. We now have 1 and 6, which is acknowledgement. 2 and 7, which is exclusivity. 3 and 8, which is respect. 4 and 9. 4 and 9. What is commandment number 4 in the Aseret Dibrot? Right, Shabbat. Now here we see a change in expression, one of the change in expression which has major halachic ramifications, especially for women, in the different versions. Okay? Different versions. So we're told to keep Shabbat in the first Luchot, printed in Parashat Yitro, Exodus. Also in Sefer Devarim, V'etchanan, in the second Luchot, it's called keep Shabbat as well. But it uses different reasons why, and it uses different words to describe it. I would write this down. It uses the word shamor in one version, to guard the Shabbat. And in the second version it says to zachor, to remember the Shabbat. Guard and remember. Shamor v'zachor. Guard and remember. What is the difference between guarding and remembering? Guarding and remembering. So when it comes to Shabbat, it refers to the mitzvah aseh of Shabbat and the mitzvah lo taseh of Shabbat. You guard Shabbat by not breaking it, and that refers to the lo ta'aseh, the 39 melachot of Shabbat.
Like actively not doing something.
By not doing, actually it's passive. It's you passively don't do the averot, the melachot of Shabbat. That's passive. That's to guard. You guard by not allowing anything through, by breaking it. Do you understand? So what's zachor? To remember. How do you remember? So whenever you see the word zachor, you aren't trying to remember something. Just to remember something in your mind is lo tishkach, don't forget. Zachor, says the Rambam, means to actively remember. How do you do that? By doing all the positive mitzvot of Shabbat. Lighting candles, making kiddush, have sudot, havdalah, some of the writer, some of the rabbanan, but they're all part of the zachor aspect. Here we learn why women are obligated in all the mitzvot of Shabbat, although it is a mitzvah shezman grama, because those two were said together, they connected via the two luchot, right? Shamor and Zachor, b'dibur echad, we say. And therefore, since women cannot do the negatives, ergo, they're obligated to the positives as well, because the two go together. That is the reason that women have the same chiyuv in Hilchot Shabbat and Shimmer Shabbat as men do, although it is a time bound mitzvah. Mitzvah shezman grama. Do you understand? I've cut a very long story short for you. You're welcome. Shamor v'zachor isn't just a change in words. You have to double click on Shamor. It says don't do 39 malachot. You double click on Zachor. It's all the positive mitzvot. By the way, you also have to remember that we left Mitzrayim, Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim, and that is all the positive mitzvot of Pesach we do at the Pesach Seder. It's the same mechanism, says the Rambam. The word Zachor always connotes doing something in order to remember. That's the idea of Zechira. How do we Jews remember? By doing actions. There's an aspect of don't forgetting, but that's a mental process of lo tishkach. Zachor involves physical actions over mitzvot, whether kiddush, havdalah, or anything else. Yeah.
Can I just clarify?
Sure.
Zachor is mitzvah shezman grama.
Yeah.
And then because of the shamor,
Yeah.
it counteracts it.
That's right. Women start with the shamor, and then go to the zachor. Because they're obligated in the shamor, right? Just because you're a woman's grama doesn't stop you doing averot. Since they're both connected and they're set together, it becomes zachor as well. And women have to do the same mitzvot when it comes to Shabbat. Shabbat is the only one of the Ten Commandments that has like a ceremonial aspect of doing mitzvot. So all ceremonial mitzvot, including all the chagim, come from Shabbat, which is why all the chagim are actually called Shabbat as well. Remember we spoke about Pesach? Mimarchat Shabbat refers to Pesach. Remember that? Mimachrata Shabbat. Write that down if you didn't already. It's going to be in your finals. So Merchat Shabbat refers to Pesach because Shabbat is Pesach. Now, Shabbat is a little bit higher because Shabbat is not just called Shabbat, it's called Shabbat Shabbaton, as is Yom Kippur, also called Shabbat Shabbaton. That's why we know that on Yom Kippur and Shabbat, you cannot do any one of the 39 malachot. On the Jewish holidays, you're allowed to do things that involve food preparation, right? Ochel nefesh. Because they are just called Shabbat or just called Shabbat. They're not called Shabbat, Shabbaton. Those two words like double up the power, and you cannot cook or do any malachot at all on Shabbat or Yom Kippur, which means that even Yom Kippur is learned out from Shabbat. So Shabbat is even greater than Yom Kippur. The proof for this, by the way, is the amount of people who get an aliyah on each day. During the week, there are 3 aliyot l'Torah. Rosh Chodesh, 4, Jewish holidays, 5, Yom Kippur, 6, Shabbat, 7. The amount of people called up to the Torah represent the greatness. Now, we're actually given 2 reasons why we need to keep Shabbat. We've got to keep going. I'm going to finish this today, whether it kills me, which it may do. We are given 2 reasons why we keep Shabbat, which is very unusual. You know, you get reasons for mitzvot in the Torah. Here we do. The 2 reasons we're told to keep Shabbat is, number 1, Hashem created the world and everything in it. Therefore, He rested, you need to rest as well. That's reason number 1. Hashem created the world, the universe. He rested on the 7th day. You have to be like God and rest as well. Reason number 2, in the other luach, is you were slaves in Egypt. Hashem took you out. Therefore, you keep Shabbat. So you have 2 very different reasons. One reason is Hashem created the world, rested on the 7th. Therefore, don't work or do malacha on the 7th day. The other reason is you are avadim in Mitzrayim. Hashem took you out, therefore you don't work 7 days, you work 6 days, and you rest on the 7th day. Those are the 2 reasons, and those are the ones that are printed in the different luchot, one in Yitro and one in Vet Chanan. What is those 2 things telling us? And why is the wording changed? So it's very important. You have to realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. We are not creators. Hashem is the ultimate creator. How do I testify? Listen to that word, we're going to use it again. How do I testify that Hashem is the ultimate creator? By stopping to create 1 day a week. You're a slave in Egypt. You're a slave in Egypt. You're no longer a slave, you're a free person. How do I represent that? By not working 1 day. Slaves work 24/7. By us not working 1 day a week, we're testifying that we're no longer slaves. We are B'nai Chorin, we are free people. That is the connection. So basically, number 1 is you're not a slave anymore. And number 2, number 1 is Hashem created the world, you don't, so you stop creating 1 day a week to testify that Hashem is the creator. And number 2 is because you were a slave, you're no longer a slave. And how do I prove that? By being free 1 day a week to get involved in spiritual pursuits. I've got to finish off, Alex. Hold your question for a second. Jump to the other side. Commandment number 9 is very simple. Very simple. You cannot be an Eid Sheker. You cannot be a false witness in a court of law. You cannot be an Eid Sheker. You cannot be a false witness in a court of law. We're back in the court of law. This time I have to testify truthfully. Right? All societies are built up on courts of law, on fair and just legal systems. And so we're told, do not lie in a court of law, which is pretty simple. It means if you saw something, right, you can't say I didn't see it. And if you didn't see something, you can't say that I did. You have to give true testimony when you speak out what you saw as an ed, as a witness. That's pretty much it. So this mitzvah commandment is exclusively in front of Bet Din in a court of law. What is the connection between number 4 and number 9? So the answer is
we're witnessing both of them. We're attesting that.
Truth, testifying. We testify that God created the world and we were taken out of Egypt. How do you testify? You keep Shabbat. Shabbat is actually called making Kiddush. Friday night is actually called Eidut, giving testimony. We stand up once a week and we testify that Hashem created the world and the universe and everything inside it, and that's actually what we say. And Hashem took us out of Egypt and made us free people in order to keep Shabbat. Okay? So it's all about truth about God, right? Creator of the world, and truth about each other by not lying in a court of law. Truth. And one of the names of Hashem is Emet, truth. And truth always leads to shalom, peace. Okay? So that's the connection. A lot more to say on that, but we'll leave it like that. Truth. Testimony, true testimony. You testify. That's why you stand up for Kiddush Friday night, because you're you're testifying. Just like when you testify, you stand up when you get sworn in. You're telling the truth over here. Okay, which takes us to the last two, which you have to do in 3 minutes or less, which I'm going to do. And it goes like this. Commandment number 5 is a very unusual commandment. It is lo tachmod, do not be jealous. It's an emotion. You cannot be jealous. Sorry, you're absolutely right. Commandment number 5 is kaber et avich v'et imecha. Commandment number 5 is honor your father and your mother. Thank you. Right? That is the mitzvah, aseh and lo taseh, of respecting parents, honoring parents, fearing parents, not necessarily loving them. Doesn't say you have to love them, but that's the mitzvah number 5. Notice that the Ramban, that the fact something is at the bottom of the luchot means it holds up all the others. Holds up all the others. You can't call your parents by their name. You have to give them respect. You can't contradict them. There's many halachot that comes with this. You can't sit in your parents' chair. Right? If your father's a chair where he sits in, right? There's much to say on this particular mitzvah. What's it doing on the side of Bein Adam Lamakom? Isn't it Bein Adam Lachavero, honoring your parents? What's it doing on the right-hand side, if you're visually looking at it? So commandment number 5 is actually honoring Hashem via your parents. Your parents are little gods, small g, right? There is a partnership. Parents give birth to the physical child, and Hashem makes a shutfut, a partnership, and puts the neshama into that child as well. So when you honor your parents, you're actually indirectly honoring HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You actually honor Hashem and show gratitude to Hashem by honoring your mother and your father. Much to say about this. Interestingly, we learn a lot of the halachot and ideas behind this from a non-Jew called Dama ben Nesina, who actually had completely insane parents, which is another discussion not for now, but that is true for Goy and Jew as well. Commandment number 10 is don't be jealous, lo tachmod, which is an emotion. That's number 10. By the Ramban says, why is it don't be jealous number 10? He says, because if you're jealous of people and their things, you're going to end up stealing from them, end up committing adultery, end up breaking Shabbat, right? And you're going to end up not believing in Hashem, worshiping. I don't believe. It's like a knock-on effect. It's like the foundations of the building, right? It all starts with lo tachmod. It's the most important emotion that we have, which is basically the mitzvah of hashgacha. When the Torah says do not be jealous, it's saying that what you have is what you're meant to have, and when you don't have and not able to get, you're not meant to have. It's hashgacha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides who gets what, where, and when. It is an emotion. The Rambam and others say it can't just be an emotion because you're not punished for bad emotions. You're punished for bad actions. So he says when you're jealous of something and pursue that thing and take it, you're actually over on lot tachmod. Even if you take it lawfully, right? The idea of being jealous of someone else and taking other people's stuff is lot tachmod. What is the connection between these two? Commandment number 5, which is honor your mother and father, and lot tachmod, do not be jealous. I'll give you 2 quick answers. Answer number 1 is, who makes you into who you are? Your parents. Your looks, your brains, your upbringing, your background. Don't be jealous of other people's parents. Right? You are given exactly to the parents you need to be given to. Don't be jealous of other people's possessions, things which come from their parents, right? Or their looks or anything else. Right? You were born into a specific family for a reason. It's not coincidence. The parents you have are the parents you're meant to have. And mark my words, you'll thank me for what I'm about to tell you, the kids you have are the kids you're meant to have as well. So you're going to look at other people's kids and be like, why can't my kids behave like them, act like them, do mitzvah like them, right? You should not do that. It is fatal, and it's actually probably asur. You're basically saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu just randomly puts kids into families. So the parents you have is designed by Hashem, but it works downwards too, upwards and downwards. The kids you have are destined to be your kids as well. It is not a coincidence. Hashem doesn't be like, okay, fine, look, here's little, I don't know, Shoshana or Moshe, we'll just dump him in with the Goldbergs. It doesn't work like that, right? The neshama that is allotted to you via your children is meant to be yours. That is your chelik, that is your portion. It is not a coincidence. No matter how crazy your kids drive you, and they will drive you crazy, because all of you are children driving your parents crazy, works both ways. Number 2, I heard from Rav Valevsky about 35 years ago. He was the chief rabbi of Mexico, and he lived in Canada and Israel, and he said, what makes you Jewish? Your mother. What makes her Jewish? Her mother. So when it says honor your parents, you're honoring the traditions and your Jewishness. Don't be jealous of other people's religion and other people's minhagim, right? You were made specifically Jewish as part of your family. Don't be like, oh, if I could be another religion, or have different minhagim, right, or become an atheist, whatever it is. No. Lo tachma, don't be jealous. Honor your mother and father. Honor the Torah and the Judaism that was handed down to them. The key word over there is acceptance. Accept exactly where you come from, that's your parents, and accept what you have, which is do not be jealous. So acceptance. So 10 commandments, 13 statements, 5 connective ones. You have in your notes. Write it, learn it, and it'll come up in your final, God willing, B'ezrat Hashem.